With the Virgo Cup now wrapped up, we can now turn our attention to the next Champions meeting, and that is the Libra Cup. Thankfully, this is a turf race, so that means our options are much more wider than they were on the dirt one. So I'll be going over the best Umas to take for this race. Before we start ranking any characters, I want to start by letting everyone know that this is a race that anyone can run. With the skill changes that came to Global, it now means that late surgers, pace chasers, and in some instances end closers have a lot more viable options to win races. And with the introduction of the newly released Daichi power card, late surgers and end closers especially gain access to a new acceleration that they didn't have before. So if you enjoy end closers and late surgers, there's a brand new card that you can take in your deck. And with that, let's start with end closers. The standout girl for this race as an end closer isn't even an end closer traditionally. It is in fact Christmas Augury Cap, which means one of two things. The first is that players should be prepared to see a double debuff team with Christmas Augury Cap, and the second is to prepare parents with After School Stroll. Because of the way the track works, After School Stroll will be the activation for Festive Miracle, and compared to previous races that included Christmas Augury Cap, unfortunately there isn't a second activation like 777s in this race, so higher whip would be required to ensure that all 3 recoveries go off to activate Festive Miracle. And if we include Lightning Surge into the mix, it pretty much almost will ensure that Augury Cap has no match. In other words, she will be the best Uma for the race. I also want to give a little bit of a mention to Narita Taishin. Although the late race starts on a corner, it isn't too long before we enter the final straight, and with that, Encroaching Shadow could be used as a delayed acceleration. Although not the ideal situation to be in, Encroaching Shadow and Lightning Surge could see a Narita Taishin make a very strong push in the final straight. For late surgers, the strongest option available is camping Major Odoba. She's rated quite highly purely because of the way her unique skill works when looking at the track. As I mentioned before with Christmas Augury Cap, because After School Stroll will be the trigger and only activates on a downhill, it works the same way with Doba's unique, meaning that once her unique activates, she should see a significant increase in target speed, effectively giving her speed carryover into the late race. And because of that, it also helps activate Lightning Surge. So all in all, everything works together to make sure that she has a strong finish when heading into the late race. There are 3 other late surgers that could be considered running in this race, and they are Original Gold City, Tosin Jordan, and Original Grass Wonder. The reason I feel that these girls are up for consideration is because all 3 of them have On Your Left built into their kit already. So for players that are already having to borrow Nice Nature to secure On Your Left, with these 3, that's no longer the case. So they're able to borrow Daichi power instead, which gives them access to a point A acceleration if both On Your Left and Lightning Surge both hit at the same time, which could see any one of them be very difficult to stop. Now, looking at end closers and late surgers, most people would consider what parents to take at this point. Unfortunately, the only reliable parent for this track is Major Orion. However, we are still gambling for 6th as the late race starts at the back end of the last corner. The original Major Odoba's unique will trigger early, effectively wasting the acceleration. Another parent to consider would be Original Cymbeline Rudolph, as her unique Behold Thine Emperor's Divine Might greatly increases speed when passing 3 runners. And if you've already activated Lightning Surge, there's a good chance that you'll overtake 2 more runners in the process, giving you a considerable speed increase as we enter the home stretch. So for players that want to run either late surgers or end closers in this race, I highly advise to look for ways to include Cymbeline Rudolph into their parent makeup. Let's now turn our attention to pace chasers. The strategy as a whole sees the highest number of characters that are in the highest rankings below Christmas Augury Cap. As an honourable mention, as Seeking the Pearl has just released, let's take a look at her first. Although not rated very highly, she is a very capable runner considering the skills that she has available to her in her kit, most notably Big Sisterly and Head On. Big Sisterly is a very good mid-race skill that should allow her to push up and contest fronts, while head on is the white skill of neck and neck, which will also act as a good acceleration for her into the late race, and her unique skill that acts similar to Triumphant Pulse, which could see her secure first place more often than not. Camping Taiki Shuttle is one of the stronger girls in the race. Unlike her original version, Camping Taiki has access to neck and neck in her kit already, and with her unique skill being identical to Seeking the Pearls, she can also find a way to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. Probably the most talked about girl in this race, and one of the most strongest options for pace chasers, is Nishino Flower. This is for several reasons. The first is that she has Determined Descent in her kit, which provides acceleration on a downhill, and as I've already covered, the downhill starts just before the late race, meaning that Determined Descent can offer speed carryover, or in this case, acceleration carryover. She also has her own unique Budding Blossom, which is another form of acceleration. If activated, could also see her be difficult to stop. Original Taiki Shuttle also has a similar experience because of the way her unique works, as Shooting for Victory also offers the same acceleration for the same duration. This means that Taiki Shuttle can compete with Nishino Flower in terms of acceleration, and with all of her kit geared towards mile races, she becomes a much more easier prospect when it comes to training. She continues to live up to her reputation as the mightiest miler in the game. One of the more surprising options on this list is Wedding Fine Motion. This version of Fine Motion is more geared toward mile races, and she also has included in her skill set Neck and Neck, with her unique skill offering players an increase in target speed rather than acceleration. When paired together, could see her explode down the final straight, making it very difficult for anyone else to catch her. Most pace chasers will probably look to borrow the Nishino Flower Wit card in order to get Determined Descent on their runners. This could be the card that you borrow when building your aces. For Nishino Flower, you could borrow Daiwa Scarlet Power if you don't already own this card yourself. This way, you ensure you get neck and neck. So if she is unable to trigger her unique skill, she will have a backup acceleration skill available to her. It is because of the skill changes made to neck and neck that both Camping Taiki Shuttle and Wedding Fine Motion have been rated so highly. Players can also borrow Nishino Flower Wit to secure Determined Descent, which doesn't interfere with the overall meta of Grand Life. For parents, there's a lot more flexibility here, especially for girls that have acceleration already built into their own unique, like Taiki Shuttle and Nishino Flower. Strong options to consider are Original Special Week, Narita Bryan, and El Condor Pasa. If you're looking for something to activate down the home stretch, you could also consider Fuji Kiseki, New Year TM Opera O, Ogre Cap, Camping Taiki Shuttle, or Seeking the Pearl. But be aware, with the last two, they're not as strong as Triumphant Pulse when inherited. If your ace does not have acceleration built into their unique, however, Taiki Shuttle is not the best option to take, as the duration of her unique isn't long enough to enter the late race, so for that reason, Nishino Flower would be a better option instead. Last but not least, we have frontrunners. As an honourable mention, let's look at Silent Suzuka. Suzuka is the only girl in the game with Unrestrained built into her kit, which means that she can take some of the better speed cards available to us in Grand Life. Unrestrained is on a card, but it is on Silent Suzuka SSR speed, so she would be unable to take it in the first place. And when we compare it to the other speed cards available to us in game already, it falls quite behind the rest of the pack. But her biggest advantage is that she will now have access to being a runaway, and for those of us who were using Silent Suzuka during the Unity Cup scenario will remember just how dominant she was in shorter distances. So if you really enjoy Silent Suzuka or are looking for an excuse to run a runaway, Silent Suzuka is your best option. Next up is Original Saiyan Sky. Saiyan's biggest advantage is her unique skill, Angling and Scheming, as this is the skill that nearly every frontrunner will want to inherit, which means if she is in first, she activates a stronger version than anyone else in the game. And with access to Escape Artist and Tail-Held Height already built into her kit, she could have a very strong mid-race. And with paired with the SSR Mahono Bourbon Wit card, she can now get access to both taking the lead and concentration when training in Grand Live. And with frontrunner savvy already available to her, she only needs to get groundwork from Inheritance to ensure it triggers, so she could have a much easier time keeping first place when entering the late race. And finally, we have Valentine Mahono Bourbon. Overall, Mahono Bourbon has probably the strongest skill package that any frontrunner would kill for, with groundwork already built into her kit and the tools necessary to activate it upon leaving the game. This means that players are not at the mercy of inheritance on getting groundwork like with other frontrunners, and with her unique skill it allows her to push up further into first place or even challenge for first place much better than other frontrunners would in the same position. You may have noticed that frontrunners have been heavily put down into the tier list. This is because of two reasons. The first is the skill changes to neck and neck and on your left, as both pace chasers and late surgers have access to a stronger acceleration skill. They also do not have ways to improve this. Unlike pace chasers with determined descent, or late surgers and enclosers with lightning surge, frontrunners only really have access to angling and scheming, which quite simply isn't good enough at this moment in time. Frontrunners would have to then take Silent Suzuka's speed in order to get unrestrained, but as I've mentioned earlier, it isn't the best speed card in terms of stat output, especially when we compare it to the rest of the cards available like Agnes Tachyon or Marozensky speed. Although they can win, there are much stronger alternative options further back in the pack, and even Silent Suzuka as a runaway also has the same issues, as she again can only take angling and scheming and unrestrained, so it does leave the door wide open for other girls to snag victory from her. If you do decide to run a frontrunner, their parents are much more fixed than the other running strategies. As I mentioned earlier, Saiyan Sky will be one of the major parents for this race, so anyone running a frontrunner should look to include Saiyan Sky here. Another alternative is El Condor Passer. If the frontrunner activates angling and scheming, then more often than not they'll trigger El Condor Passer's unique. And if you're looking for something to activate down the home stretch, there's also Fuji Kaseki and New Year TM Opera O. If you're looking for skills to help you challenge or keep first place, you can also consider Valentine Mahono Bourbon and Summer Marozensky. These two pair quite well together, as Valentine Bourbon provides a small heal when activated, allowing Summer Marozensky's unique to trigger without you requiring to take a recovery skill. But that's the end of the tier list. Let me know who you're looking to run in the next Champions meetings, and if you're wondering what deck to take for your parents, we have a video for that on the channel. Thanks for watching and good luck with building your aces.